you had a chance to speak to counsel over the break, apparently Mr. Smith and Mr. Terry and Mr. Roten, the last witness, got together over the lunch break and realized there's something they need to clear up. So, Mr. Smith, you'd like to call Mr. Roten back in. Or, Daniel, would you grab it for us? Mr. Roten, come on back up and have a seat. You're still under oath, sir. Your witness, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Roten, prior to lunch, you were shown what has been marked as People's 86, and in that you were asked extensive questions about slide 6.
Correct.
Okay. Now, as to slide 6, over the break, did you have an ability to review the GPS coordinates relating to calls from the Grapevine to Edison, and then the later call from Tehachapi to Roseman?
We did.
Following the review of those GPS records, did you realize that slide 6 was in error?
Correct.
Your Honor, at this time I had some items marked.
Yes.
Tables 93 and 94 marked next in order.
Mr. Roten, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 94, a new packet of Google Map overlays that has the slide 6 removed. If you could review those, please.
Okay. There's still a slide 6, but the previous slide 6 has been removed.
Are you able to review, though, however, that the slide that was in error has since been removed from that packet?
Yes.
Okay. Please also review People's 93.
Okay.
Did you create that packet, two-page packet of slides as well?
I did.
Your Honor, I would request People's 92, 93 be moved into evidence at this time, and 93 and 94, and People's 86 withdrawn.
Mr. Terry, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Terry. We'll show 93 and 94 admitted. People's 86, which was admitted, will be withdrawn. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Starting with page 1 of People's 94, this is for a cell phone ending in 3569 for the dates of 5/16 through 5/23. Starting with page 1, if you could please, or page 2, could you please describe the slide?
Is it possible to zoom in just a little tighter?
Yes.
Between 5/16/14 at approximately 10:20 p.m. and 5/23/14 at approximately 8:23 a.m., target number ending in 3569 was in the Monterey Salinas area connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Slide 3.
Between 5/23/14 at approximately 1:56 p.m. and 5/23/14 at approximately 5:07 p.m., target number ending in 3569 traveled southbound from the Monterey area, arriving in the Mittler area, connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Slide 4.
Between 5:13:14 at approximately 5:09 p.m. and 5:23:14 at approximately 5:22 p.m. Target number ending in 3569 traveled southbound, thanks, from the Mittler area, arriving in the Grapevine area, connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Slide 5.
Between 5:23:14 at approximately 5:22 p.m. and 5:23:14 at approximately 5:52 p.m. The target number ending in 3569 reverse directions and traveled from the Grapevine area in a northeasterly direction to the east of Edison, to the east of the Edison area, connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Moving on to what is now slide 6 that you previously testified to is slide 7. I can bring it to you.
On 5:23:14 at approximately 7:35 p.m., target number ending in 3569 had an incoming call from a phone number ending in 7958. The call lasted approximately 1,428 seconds. During this call, the target cell phone traveled from the Tehachapi area to the Richmond area, connecting to the T-Mobile network. On 5:23:14, target number ending in 3569 had traveled from the Monterey area to the Roseman Mojave area. During the movement, the target number changed directions in the Mittler Grapevine area. The most likely path is shown in white.
As to this last slide, this is showing the path of travel throughout the calls you've just testified to in the previous slides.
Yes, excluding all the calls in the Monterey area coming to this direction.
Okay. Moving now to Peoples 93. This is in relation to the target cell phone ending in 3569 from April 15th through April 16th, 2014. If you could describe the contents of slide 2.
Between 4:15:14 at approximately 9:20 p.m. and 4:16:14 at approximately 6:57 a.m. Target number ending in 3569 is in the Hellendale area, connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Jerry, cross.
Okay. So, Mr. Roten, this is the slide we were discussing with regards to the travel from Tehachapi to Rosamond, with the call lasting 1,428 seconds, or approximately, I think it's 23.8 minutes. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And if I understand your mapping here, it indicates that, it'd be nice if I had my pen. The cell tower is located about at the center of that circle, is that right?
Yeah, actually, right where that line stops in the center of the circle is the actual tower.
That's the radius portion of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've got a line going out from the radius to where the sector coverage begins, is that right?
Yeah, let me correct something. That's the actual physical latitude, longitude position of the tower or the antenna. The radius line that you see going out is just to give you an idea of where the center of the area is, and that's a 3-mile radius.
Okay. For that particular tower in that sector, that's how far the coverage is, about 3 miles?
We typically, as I had stated earlier, we typically map anywhere between 3 and 5 miles. In areas like this, you'll see towers reach out much further than that.
Okay. That's not unusual in rural areas. You'll have fewer towers, but the towers will be a stronger signal.
Correct.
Okay. And your estimate is it's approximately 3 miles.
Yeah, that's drawn at 3 miles.
Okay. Did you actually test to see what the how would I put it, the actual distance is that tower covers?
No.
Okay.
T-Mobile does not provide us that data.
And you didn't actually physically go out to the location and test it yourself. Would that be accurate?
No, I didn't. I don't even know if this tower is live today.
Okay. Or if it's even there anymore?
It could be. They change all the time,
Okay.
actually on a weekly basis.
Now, and so I understand it correctly, you're saying that the radius or the azimuth setting for that particular sector begins about where you've drawn that line out from the center, is that right?
No.
Okay.
That line is just there to depict the center of the radius,
Okay.
of the coverage area.
Okay.
The reason that's done in this particular case, T-Mobile has a sectoring system. You typically have 3 sectors, but it'll also go up to 9. They will not always provide, like if it's something beyond 3, 4 through 9, they commonly will not provide the azimuth in the database. So when you look at the call detail records, it'll show the latitude, longitude, and the azimuth will not be depicted. So when there's no azimuth shown, then we draw it as an omnidirectional 360.
In other words, you can't tell where on that pie, if you will, or that round shape, where exactly within that circle the caller actually is. Would that be accurate?
That's correct in all cases. We can't tell. The sector has not been identified in this case.
So they could have been at one end of the sector or the tower or the other end of the tower. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now this is on the this particular tower location is on the east side of Tehachapi headed into Mojave. Would that be accurate? Based on the map?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know if you've ever driven through Mojave or through Tehachapi and tried to get a cell signal. Have you ever done that?
I've not. I've flown over it, but I've never driven it.
Okay. And you wouldn't know whether or not you can even get cell reception in the Tehachapi area very well outside of Tehachapi.
I have no idea. I only know that these calls connected, that call connected at those 2 points during
Okay.
the time frame.
All right. That's what I wasn't sure of, and I want to make sure that was clear. There was one other area I did want to go into. I was a little curious about, and that's it's People's Exhibit 90, which is called Detail Records Mapping for Date Range. I think it's supposed to be 830 through 831. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Without looking at it.
Okay. Can you see that, sir? Whoa. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay. Is that one that you prepared?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicate that the target phone 3569 was somewhere in the Hellendale area, or traveled from Hesperia to the Hellendale area between 10:51 a.m. on August 30th of 2014. Is that right?
Well, let's see on 8/31 at approximately 12:11 a.m. Target number ending in 3569 is in the Hellendale area, connecting to the T-Mobile network.
Well, that's why I want to make sure I understood what you're saying here. Sometime between 10:51 a.m. on August 30th of 2014, okay, and 12:11 a.m. on August 31st, 2014, you're saying that the phone what you could track is the phone traveling from Hesperia to Hellendale. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you say the target phone is then traveling back to Hesperia at 6:16 a.m. on August 31st. Is that right?
That's when the next net mappable data point comes in.
Okay. And what that is those are when you see phone calls being made. Is that right?
Right. You see a phone call being made where there's a tower and sector associated with it.
Okay. And so I understand at 10:51 a.m. on August 30th, that's the first one you see. Is that right?
Once again, I'd have to look at the call detail records to determine that.
Be more cooperative. And the other one? I'll go with this one. I've highlighted on the record there on my computer the August 30th through the, I think, 31st or thereabouts, or late into late in August 30th. Now, what's the earliest call that you observed that would be in the Hellendale area, based upon the GPS coordinates?
Without actually mapping these GPS coordinates, I don't have the ability to tell you that right now.
Well, during that time frame, were there a number of phone calls to a particular number, the number that's highlighted?
Yes.
Okay. Are they to and from the number that's highlighted?
They're outgoing, you've got a whole host of numbers that are highlighted here. I'm not sure which ones you're speaking of. This one here? Okay.
That's the one.
Well, you got 060.
Anyways, are there two numbers that I've highlighted?
Yes.
What are they?
Hold on one second. There's one with the last four digits ending in 8060 and one with the last four digits 7958.
Okay. And are there, in between, there are some voice calls, is that right?
Correct.
And then there are also text messages in between, is that right?
There are, but as I told you at the break, the text messages are not necessarily chronological. They're archived in a different time zone.
And I understand that. My question is, there are text messages in between the phone calls, right? I know they're archived differently.
Honestly, I don't know because they're not chronological in this data sheet.
Okay.
so I can't answer that question.
Well, they don't have a date and time that they're being sent?
They do, but they're archived in a different time zone.
Well, when you say they're archived in a different time zone, are you talking that they're in...
Central time.
Huh?
Central time, so there's a 2-hour shift. So we'd have to go to make that change. They're 2 hours ahead of us.
Assuming that they haven't already converted it from, say, even Greenwich Mean Time or UTC, though, right?
No, those were presented in local time, other than text messages for T-Mobile are archived in Central time.
But there are phone calls between the target phone and 8060, which is a landline, right?
As I told you before, I don't know that it is.
I represent to you that that is a landline.
Okay.
There is a phone voice call there, is there not?
Yes.
And there are calls, voice calls of some limited duration also during that time that you said that it shows the phone traveling from Hesperia to Hellendale and then from Hellendale to Hesperia. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And if you're standing next to somebody, do you usually call them on their phone?
No.
Okay. That's why I asked. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Nothing else.
Step down, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
People recall Sergeant Rutledge.
Come on back up, Sergeant. Let me remind you, you're still under oath.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Mr. Smith, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
When you were here previously, you testified to an interview you had with Ms. Limon on November 20th, 2014. Is that correct?
That was my follow-up interview with her, yes.
Okay. And where did that interview take place at?
At the Central Receiving Facility.
Your Honor, I would request to play what has been previously marked and moved into evidence as People's Exhibit 79 from an interview on November 20th, 2014.
Any objection, Mr. Chair?
Submitted.
Granted, Counselor. I assume we had a 79A mark then, or did we not? We did. 79 and 79A will be admitted. I reflect that Daniel will hand out, I think, you will hand out the transcripts. Councilor Greer stipulate Madam Recorder does not need to take down the contents of 79 in light of 79A being marked.
So stipulated.
Mr. Terry, agreed?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, is this audio only or audio and video?
Just audio, Your Honor.
Actual evidence is what you hear, not what you read. The point of the transcript is to help you follow along. Mr. Smith, looks like everybody has a copy.
What's that? How about she sits right here? So I'll stay right here out of the You remember me?
Yeah.
You think I've done the job? You been getting some sleep? Not much else to do, huh? You have court today at 3 o'clock. When you saw me, you said that you were thinking about me. What were you thinking?
That I wanted to talk to you guys.
What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I can't believe it. I let this happen. I can't believe it.
Are you ready now? We want to hear everything.
Okay.
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 Jonathan killed Robert, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and
How did you help him?
well, I let him know where Robert worked. I didn't know that he was going. And I didn't know he was going to Tehachapi that day to do that. But I figured it all out. And then, well,
At what point did you, let's go back a little bit, okay? When did you tell Jonathan where Robert worked?
it was quite a while ago. And it was honestly in conversation, and I racked my brain of like why or how I told him, you know, that it was just these buildings off of the first exit off of the freeway, but I did tell him that.
Okay. Did you tell him, now we're talking about the day Rob died, did you tell Jonathan that Rob was working in Tehachapi?
I did. But I told him a lot of times, you know, his schedule and what he was working. But what's wrong? I've just been thinking, what is wrong with my brain? What is wrong with me? Because I love my family and really, I do, and I know you guys, trust me, I've been thinking about you guys, like, well, this is gonna be my life now, like, and it should be, you know, like I had a good life. What's wrong with me?
When did you figure it out? How soon after Rob died did you figure out that Jonathan did it?
And shortly, I mean, it wasn't like right away, like, you know, figured that possibly,
Pretty soon after? Before we go any further, you feel comfortable talking to us? Yeah?
yeah, have to talk 2 days.
Okay. You remember those rights we read to you before, like a dozen times?
Yes.
You still remember them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just formality stuff.
I understand.
Okay.
Yes, I understand.
Let me ask you this. Are you glad I showed up at that door right there?
Yes. I just love my kids, you know, I feel so bad for them.
I talked to Julie just briefly. Okay. Of course, they're not happy. They miss their mom, but they're doing fine. Okay.
Well, my sisters, I have a good family, you know. Of course, Julie's taking care of them.
She's
But
taking
my
great
kids
care.
love me so much.
Okay.
They love me so much. They love Robert.
Do you remember what day of the week Rob died?
On Sunday.
Let's talk days. How soon? You're doing good so far. Okay, you're doing good. I need you to keep it up. Okay. How many days after that day did you first talk to Jonathan?
Well, I talked to I mean, you guys have those really. I felt like I had it. I know I messaged him and I let him know Robert was murdered. No, Robert was gone, and but I was so caught up in that, you know. But I was messaging him back and forth, you know.
What made you figure it out?
Just in time, like talking and his behavior, and the more, you know, like I had interviews with the detectives and things, questions he asked me, and
When you say he, Jonathan? So his behavior, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Now, when you lied to Detective Meyer, and honestly, when you lied to us, you knew that Jonathan was guilty, didn't you?
I was scared, and I just felt like, you know,
What were you scared of?
well, I was scared of our affair and it being aired, and I didn't want to do that to, you know, Rob's name and the kids and
Fair
family.
enough. We've established that. Okay, let's move on from that.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
When you lied to Detective Meyer and us,
Yeah.
and you said you figured it out right away that Jonathan was responsible, why didn't you tell us?
I didn't want it to be true. I
But
didn't
you
tell you
knew.
guys because I was scared.
What were you scared of?
All this.
Scared of getting caught, right?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever
I
specifically
don't
talk about it?
understand any more than you do. I can't. That's all I've been thinking about. It's like, what? How could any of this make sense at all? But in my head, I don't know how I've just been justifying it.
Through religion, huh?
Yeah. I felt like God was. I was gonna live for God and raise the kids, you know.
But you had this stuck in the back of your mind, huh?
I loved Robert.
There's no doubt about it. But you love Jonathan too.
So crazy. And yes, yeah. It was like I was looking at two lives, you know, and
I'm listening. I am listening.
well, it's not even worth wild lifestyle, like, how did they live? Talk about, like, how I lived with Robert, you know, with Dad.
When you say it's bad, did you say it was bad or it wasn't bad?
It wasn't.
What you and Robert did.
Living with him.
Okay, I understood you to say that it was not. Because you said the first time I talked to you that it was bad.
Well, no, Jonathan.
No, that you, the lifestyle that you were living with Robert, that it was bad. The things that you guys did. And I don't see how, you guys are two consenting adults. So, I really have a problem with that, because it's, aside from getting caught with your relationship with Jonathan, I would imagine everything else that you and Robert did, you guys knew about it. I mean, it was that type of relationship. What you guys do, I can tell you right, it's not my business, it's not my partner's business, I could care less. That's not, I'm not here. We're not the moral police, the affair police, anything like that. But you guys were consenting in it, and to go and say that you were bad and now you have to live your life for God, I'm trying to understand that if you and Robert were consenting, what was so bad about it? Is it because Jonathan's telling you it's bad? But it's okay for him to have an affair with you, that's not bad? Isn't that? I mean, do you see the problem I'm having with this?
Yeah. Absolutely. I see it very clearly. Very clearly. I see it.
It seems like it took some days away from Jonathan for you to get your head right. Now, did you guys ever talk? Did he ever tell you anything specifically about killing Rob? Think hard.
Like about,
Did he ever say, I killed Rob for you?
no, he never said he said he would do anything for me, and that.
Did he say he would kill for you?
Not to my knowledge, possibly, because he said a lot of things like that.
He's a talker, huh? So you had it figured out early on. And you said that you're scared to get caught, right? That's why you didn't say anything?
Yeah.
If you didn't pull the trigger,
No, I did not.
well, if you didn't do it, what do you have to be scared about?
About where I'm at right now, and
Because you knew about it and you didn't report it?
because, yeah, and I know, I already know how bad it sounds. I'll just say it again now. I just didn't want my love of, and I know that sounds so stupid now, but I was worried about,
Losing Jonathan?
I guess that's part of it. I was worried about our affair and like just things that truly don't matter now. That's
Let me,
in my head.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me,
I didn't want to lose him, I guess.
are you kind of like big on appearances, outward appearances, how other people see you?
Big on it. On something like this, yes, for sure. But big on it. I don't know.
I know this is a cold question, but at some point, did you ever feel relieved that Rob was gone?
No, never felt relieved Rob was gone.
Did you feel like building a future with Jonathan?
I started to, yes.
Knowing that he killed your husband?
Just thought, read the Bible and
Let me ask you a question about the Bible. You keep bringing it up, and it's.
I know it's disrespectful.
No.
I didn't want to dishonor God. This is,
Who got you going to church and reading the Bible? Who did all that?
well, I've always known God, you know, and, but
Your friends and family are saying they've noticed a change, that you're more biblical now, I guess is the best word. So who influenced that change in you?
well, I felt like, you know, I do feel God,
Was it
wanting
Jonathan?
to live right, but,
You nodded right now. Was it Jonathan that
well, we
Well, I mean, like my partner said this the last time we talked, and I mean, one thing that I hope we get out of this right now is that there is no going back. I mean, what's done is done. We're here. We can't change that. We're not going to change it. Okay? But I know it made it's something small as what my partner said. It made a big impact on me. On why are you being so guarded and shielded with us? Because we want you to tell us. I mean, man, I want you to tell us everything. We need the clear picture. And I still think you're being guarded. I personally, I think that you say you knew God prior to this. Yeah, I don't doubt that for 1 second. But as far as what you're doing, how you've been living your life, and conversations that you had, and things that you say, and text messages that you sent, I am convinced that is all influenced by Jonathan. That's what I think. But at the end of the day, you know what's funny? At the end of the day, it doesn't even matter what I think. It doesn't. We're at a point right now that you can't be guarded with us. I mean, I could see it. I mean, you want to talk, but you don't know how much you're going to tell us.
Sabrina, just give me a moment to put this into perspective, okay?
well, you know, because I feel really bad.
Give us a moment to put this into perspective, okay? For you, okay? Okay. You ready for this?
Hey.
Who's that?
Hey. Who are you asking? No, that's okay. Oh, I just got a text message from Detective Meyer and he asked me to call. So, I'm going to.
Who's talking there?
Me.
Who are you talking to?
Jonathan.
Jonathan? You're going to tell him something. I want you to key in on his reaction, okay?
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
What did he say? He said, I'll pray. Sounds very nervous, doesn't he? And all you told him is that you were going to call Detective Meyer.
Okay, I just wanted you to pray. And pray and
You were going to pray too.
God, please help us. God, please help us.
Does an innocent man, and woman for that matter, act that way when all they're going to do is make a phone call? He sounds a little nervous, doesn't he? So this conversation was 11/9/2014 at 10 in the morning, okay? Is it safe to say that when you made this phone call to Jonathan, you knew he had murdered Robert?
Yes.
I'm just being wise. Help Sabrina to have the right words. Please help everything to be. God, please help us to live for you.
Please help Sabrina have the right words. We don't have to go on with that one. There are other phone calls. We'll only run a few. Did he coach you on what to tell us? I need to hear it, huh?
Yes,
He told you what to tell us, huh?
we talked a lot about what to say.
Especially the workroom.
Probably.
We'll go through one more. Okay? I know this is tough for you.
I know.
You're doing good, okay?
I don't like it, but I deserve it, you know?
Okay. Don't think of this as punishment. We offer opportunity. Okay? This is 4 minutes. Okay?
Hi, baby. Hey.
It is what it is. Okay? Don't regret anything. Okay? He's a handsome guy. I'm sure he's easy to love. Okay?
How are you? I'm good. How are you, baby? I'm okay. What's the matter? Well, I don't know. Your best friend basically has a friend in law enforcement. And then you said that they're getting ready to make the arrest or arrest what they did this to Robert.
I want you to key in on how Jonathan acts. Okay?
And I just, like, oh my gosh, you know, she's just like really cold. What's that? She's
We notice a way you talk, Sabrina. When you're talking to Jonathan about Rob's murder and going back and forth about how you're going to act with us, you talk very low. Your tone, the inflection in your voice, everything changes. Okay, you probably don't notice it. But you notice how you're real low right there? A lot of those conversations are that way. A lot of the conversations you have with Jonathan are real, when you talk like that, they're real low. Okay?
Where the residential food, it had to be somebody wanted to stone the Robert.
Do you believe that? Somebody wanted to stun the Robert? You do? Who?
Jonathan is, I decided wanna,
I guess it's something bigger, you know, like that's what they were saying. You know, she got something that may not even know about, you know. And so then I'm just like, you know, my gosh, you know, wow. Which is like, maybe it's like someone that might be, you know, just here with a, maybe it's what? Maybe the someone who has to make a confession to a lady or something bigger, who knows, you know. I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said? She's an online lady cat, just, she's just learning all this thing.
Did Jonathan tell you that he thought the phone lines were tapped?
he didn't think they were. And then, but then he said they probably are tapped.
Did he make sure you talked a certain way on the phone? Because here's the deal. You guys would, he left work several times to go to your house when he was presented with certain, when you would tell him things. Remember that time he was supposed to work like 2 days straight, but he got off halfway through his shift and went to your house because you guys are stressing out about this?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yes.
What happened? What'd you guys talk about then?
Just, you know, this sucks. And, you know, it sucks.
Would he coach you on what to say?
We would just talk, you know.
So you would plan together what to tell Detective Meyer?
We would just talk about it, and he would say things that you guys could make up or say to me. And to get an attorney, because they're probably not going to be telling you everything, you know, that they have.
Sabrina, have we told you everything?
I mean, too much.
So he was wrong there. There were no tricks with you.
But I've never done something like, you know,
Something like what?
like this. I don't know what, you know, I've never been around detectives before or know.
Who knows, you know, this, that, you know. Hearing water, if it was groundwater, you know, whatever. But, and then you go to talk to the detective and they say, I do, you know.
That wasn't part of it, I'm sorry.
People don't say anything to him. Like, because
GL, hey, I was turning around and gonna come back to you.
okay.
Is that?
So you tell him this, and he turns around to come back and see you. Doesn't that seem kind of suspicious to you?
It all felt, I think it was just, suspicious. After a while, you know.
Let's finish
Is
this.
that okay?
Let's just finish this call.
Okay. I would like to see you. I'm sorry. I'm wow, it's crazy. Okay, well.
Are you coming back this way?
Let me, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't even want to hear these, you know.
Can you hear me still, baby?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, I'm on the old road and I'm just gonna pray right now. Oh God.
That's what I want to get to. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear that?
What?
He said, "Oh God." Did you sense the panic in his voice? I played these for you just to make it clear to you. So, I hate to bring it up. How soon after Rob's death did you know Jonathan did it?
Not that long.
A day or two? A week?
Pretty quick.
That day?
Yeah. I didn't know that day.
Why'd you keep calling him that day? We didn't bring that stuff, but there are several.
I always called him a lot. Why did I call him that day?
Well, not that day. I know I said a lot to you the first time we talked. And I showed you like a yellow notepad that I had that showed the amount of calls that you guys were doing. And the first sheet was the day before he killed Robert. The next one was the day that he killed Robert. And at the time this is going on, at the time Jonathan is killing him, you're calling him.
And he's not answering. Do you remember that?
I remember calling him. I remember calling both of them. I remember calling Robert too.
Yeah. You didn't have no one to say goodnight.
That's where my whole is. You know how I see it. I mean, I'm looking at that thinking, Sabrina had second thoughts. She doesn't want Jonathan to kill Robert, and she's trying to call it off.
No, I did not know he was going that day. I called him. And I wanted to get a hold of him before Robert.
What did you guys, when he finally called you, he called you after you had been notified that Robert was dead?
They talked before that. They talked like at 8 that night.
No, that's what, but immediately after, as soon as Jonathan gets home from killing him, he calls you. He sent you 2 text messages. I showed you they were 13 seconds apart. And then the phone call was about 12 seconds or so after the second text. And you guys actually spoke for 10 minutes. And you had already been told that Robert's dead.
I hadn't talked to him after I found out.
What time did you find out Robert was dead?
At like 8:30, I believe it was.
At night?
8:37 or something like that. Or 8:40.
You okay?
I'm good. I'm good.
I didn't talk to him before I knew about Robert. No, I talked to him before I knew, not after. I didn't talk to him after. I feel like I didn't talk to him for days, but I guess.
Well, actual phone calls, like voice calls, it was 3 or 4 days. But you were non-stop text. I showed you that. I wasn't making that up, Sabrina.
I didn't feel like I was not stopped. I just don't think it felt like, like I could honestly say no because I was in shock. Couldn't believe it. But here I am, I led him to Robert. All this is my fault. I do love my kids so much. I know with all my heart. I know how they can get so caught up.
That's,
I don't know how
and
I don't take medication with me. I guess I have.
well, see, I understand being embarrassed, or at least not wanting your personal life to become played out in public. But it's just, God, Sabrina, I've been doing this for so long now, and I have such a hard time accepting it, that you and Jonathan, excuse me, that you and Jonathan went to the extremes that you did, simply to conceal an affair. I mean, and God, I greatly appreciate you being honest with us, that you knew early on that Jonathan killed your husband. But why wouldn't you come to us and tell us your beliefs? Because again, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to be ugly with you. I have a hard time believing that you wouldn't want us to catch the person that killed your husband. But not only that, you believe that he killed your husband, but then you insert him into your children's life.
Knowing that he murdered Rob.
So now, your kids, your beautiful kids, lost their dad. Okay? And then you bring Jonathan. No, I'm not gonna, I don't want to hear that. Because the God that I know doesn't operate like that. Maybe you and I know different gods, I don't know. But the God that I know doesn't operate like that. But that being said, your children already lost their father. And you knowingly inserted the guy that created that into their lives. And I that's the part that I want to understand.
Well, that's what I've been thinking about.
Did you think he was going to kill you too?
No.
I'm glad you said that, because that's truth. I didn't think that, because I didn't think that either. You guys, the conversations that you guys had.
He loves you. He does. He went to extremes to show it.
He killed for you.
Now, what made you figure it out? We have to keep going here in a minute, but I need to know, how did you figure it out?
Just behavior.
Behavior? That day, the day Rob died, what did he really tell you? Did he tell you he was sick? Did he tell you he was going for a ride?
He said he'd been sleepy, and that he was messed up from working. And he was sorry. And he had plans maybe to go to some harvest festival.
With Parker canceled, huh? Now, when Jonathan was instructing you on what to say to us, did you think, now, this is where your answer becomes crucially important. Did you think that he was just concealing the affair, or what he did when he told you what to tell us?
Both. I mean,
Because the affair would point at you and him, huh? Yeah. Sabrina, I'm gonna open-ended question. Did you guys ever even playfully talk about getting rid of or killing Rob?
yeah.
Did you openly discuss divorce?
Yes.
Did you plan on divorcing Rob? No?
No, we had talked, Jonathan and I would talk about it, but
Did you tell John Dillon? Jonathan get mad? When you would tell Jonathan that you weren't divorcing Rob, would he get mad?
I never told him that I wasn't.
Okay.
But he didn't like how we lived.
Jonathan didn't like how Rob lived?
How we lived together.
How did you know? I mean, did you meet him on, was that how you guys came to know each other?
Jonathan and I.
Yeah.
And then at work.
And you would discuss your lifestyle with him?
Over a period of time. I mean, not right away in Costco, but I got to know him. He'd come in and see me. And Robert found out. But you guys didn't know.
But how much did Robert know? Did he know you guys were having sex? He did? Was Rob cheating on you?
We've been on sites and on computer and stuff. There's stuff that happened years, there's been things that have happened. But Robert didn't like, he didn't like things to be aired out. Rob was more of the show. What he cared about. And we did love each other. I mean, we were best friends, But I was in this whole other sort of relationship with Jonathan. He's way different from Robert. Night and day. Night and day.
Listen to you more?
Rob listened to me. Rob listened to everybody.
We're going to take off here. Do you have anything?
I just want to make sure that at any time, did you guys ever discuss him killing Rob?
No.
I mean, point blank.
No. killing Robert? Well, he did it.
I have no doubt that he did it. We're way past. I know he did it.
Did you guys ever talk about it?
We talked about all this stuff, you know? We talked about, but not, he didn't give me, he didn't tell me. Like, here's the gun, you know?
And I understand. I mean, I know he's not going to tell you that. He shot your husband in the way he did it. I know that. But did he ever just come out and say, it's taken care of, he's gone, now we can have our life?
No, he never said that. But it, all of those things that could have led up to, you know, like we could get married now.
Did you ever confront him?
No, I said, well, it's not you. Right? It's not you.
What would he say when you asked him?
That you guys could make it look like him.
So he wouldn't even deny it to you, he would just say that we're going to set him up? That doesn't happen. I guarantee you. Any questions, Sabrina?
What's going to happen to the kids?
You will definitely have a say, regardless of what happens today in court, okay?
Why am I being charged with murder?
When those are just charges, I'll explain to you briefly. We do have to get going. This is just an arrest. The DA decides what, if anything, they file on you and Jonathan, okay? But
Why do they decide?
because of the prosecuting agency, we make the arrest. The district attorney's office prosecutes the case. Okay? They use our investigation for their prosecution. Okay? Now, murder, because if we can prove that you had knowledge of Robert's homicide before it occurred, it's the same as pulling the trigger. And you were arrested under that premise. Okay? That could change today. Okay? All right? Regarding your children, you will definitely have a say. Okay? All right?
I'll be here a long time.
I don't know. One last thing. Is Aaron's name Michael? Is it Michael Aaron?
No, Brian?
Yeah.
I don't know, I just know it's Aaron.
What's his wife's name?
Tiffany.
Tiffany Gibbons?
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Do you know who their friend in law enforcement is?
No, I don't want to get them in trouble.
We just need to figure out how they found it. There's no laws that were broken.
She just felt like I would want to know.
Yeah. She probably did it in good faith. She probably thought.
Oh, she did. Total good faith. So I don't want them to.
No, nothing would happen to any of them. We just want to know where that information came from.
I asked her who it was, and she wouldn't tell me.
She won't tell you? Are you being honest with me?
Yes, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Anything for us?
And we had heard other stuff like through the railroad too, you know, like people talk, so.
Feel a little bit better getting that off your chest? Court this afternoon. Okay, we're in Richmond.
All right, record reflected 79 played for the jury. They had a copy. 79A, Mr. Smith.
Nothing further.
So Terry, before you start your cross, you want to? Okay. Take our afternoon recess there. 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. got Sergeant Rutledge still on the stand, subject to cross by Mr. Terry at all 12 plus 4 and block. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Mr. Terry, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Rutledge.
Good afternoon.
Now, at the time that you interviewed Sabrina at the Central Receiving Facility here next to the courthouse, that was on November 20th, 2014, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And by then, she'd been in custody for 2 days, is that right?
Yes.
She'd been questioned first by you and Detective Trevino out at Boron, is that right?
Yes.
She's transported from Boron to Bakersfield, and then she talks to Detective Meyer for 4 hours and 40 minutes or somewhere around that time. Is that right?
I do not know how long their interview was.
Okay. And you weren't present when Detective Brewer was telling her what he wanted to hear from her?
I was not present during the conversation with Detective Brewer.
I understand that. So when you spoke to her on the 20th, had she asked to speak with you?
Not that I know of.
And this is kind of something that you, either Sheriff Department or even BPD does on occasion, that before someone who is being charged with a crime has been arraigned for those crimes in court, you go and try to talk to them again before they're arraigned. Is that right?
Yes.
That's before they have a lawyer to advise them. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, she indicated to you that, based upon her discussions with Jonathan Hearn, that he originally didn't believe that their phones were being hacked, if you will. Is that right?
Yes.
And then at some point, she said that he began to believe that they possibly were being listened to. Is that right?
From what I gathered from the interview, she stated that he formulated the opinion somehow that they were.
And the times where you were talking about her talking to Jonathan in a low voice, you remember those? You mentioned that during the course of the interview?
Yes.
Where she seemed to be talking to Jonathan in a low voice?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where she was when those calls were made?
No.
Okay. Did you ever think that if she was at home, she was trying to be quiet because her kids may be sleeping or something along those lines, and that's why she talked with a low voice?
Objection, speculation.
Good answer.
Please ask that again, sir.
Sure. Did you ever think that perhaps if she was home and her children were sleeping, she was talking in a low voice to Mr. Hearn because the children were asleep?
It was a possibility, but during that conversation, her tone would get lower. It would be at a normal volume, then it would get lower as the conversation progressed.
Well, that was based upon what you were picking up on the phone tap or the phone line. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. By now, you had your opportunity to talk to her and tell her what you had as far as what knowledge you had as far as the investigation was concerned. Is that right? During the course of your first interview with her, you told her certain things that you said you knew about the murder of her husband. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. And that was based upon the wiretaps that you'd heard or reviewed. Is that right?
A part of it, yes.
And the investigation that had been being conducted. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you told her things that you believed or knew in order to try to get her to open up and tell you things. Is that right?
As part of the interrogation process, yes.
Okay. Try to get a witness or a suspect to make what are called admissions. Is that right?
Partially, yes.
Okay. Or try to gather information from them that you think they may have.
Yes.
And then I would assume, and having listened to Detective Meyer and Brewer's interrogation of her, that they did similar types of techniques to try to get her to open up. Is that right?
I did not listen to their interview.
I understand. But that would be typical police tactics in interrogating a suspect, would it not?
I'm not going to speak to another detective's tactics.
Okay. Well, you all were trained in the same tactics, were you not?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay. And during your conversations with her, with Detective Trevino, you told her that you knew that Jonathan Hearn had killed her husband. Is that right?
I don't recall if I said that verbatim.
Present when you conducted this interview with Detective Trevino, right?
Yes.
Detective Trevino said that, did he not?
Sorry, I do not recall specifically. If you could point me to the correct location.
Certainly. If you look at page 27, line 24 to page 28, line 1 of the transcript.
Okay, I read it.
Isn't that what Detective Trevino said to Sabrina?
Yes.
Okay. And that was things that actually had been repeated to her prior to that, even when you interviewed her back on the 18th, right?
I cannot remember specifically if we told her that during the November 18th interview.
Sabrina told you throughout the course of this interview was that Jonathan Hearn never told her that he had actually killed her husband, right?
That's correct.
And this is now 2 days after the initial arrest, and after you had told her multiple times and actually played for her some of the phone intercepts. Is that right?
Yes.
And she had time to think about it and begin to question what she believed before, right?
Objection, speculation.
She'd had time to think about it and reflect. Would you agree with that?
Objection, speculation.
Yeah, you can answer.
So I don't know what she was thinking during that time.
I'm not asking you whether or not you knew what she was thinking, but she had time from the time you arrested her on November 18th of 2014 to November 20th of 2014 to reflect upon the things that you and the other detectives had told her about what Jonathan had done.
Yes, I suppose she had the time.
I have no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Schmidt.
Sergeant Rutledge, you were asked if Detective Trevino told Sabrina that Jonathan killed Robert, and you were directed to page 27, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about if I direct you to page 1, line 22, where you asked the question, Jonathan killed Robert, didn't he? What was Miss Limon's response?
She said, yeah.
Okay. So she answered in the affirmative at the beginning of the interview that Jonathan Hearn killed Robert Limon.
Yes, sir, she did.
Okay. 27 pages before Detective Trevino said what he said.
You are correct.
Now, when you're in an interrogation and you're speaking with a witness, you're trying to get information from that witness, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You might use that later as evidence in court. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever used a witness's fabrications later on in court if you're able to prove them to be untrue?
Yes, I have.
Okay. How about if they knowingly lied to you? Do you later use that in court as well if you're able to prove that they were lying throughout the pendency of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. So an interrogation is not merely to get truths. It's also sometimes to be able to show untruths. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now, during your first interview with Sabrina Limon, did she inform you that she had known immediately after the murder that Jonathan Hearn had killed her husband?
No, she did not.
Okay. Now, what did she tell you in that first interview?
On the November 18th interview, she told us that there was no way Jonathan was responsible for Robert's death.
So in the interview that we just played, she informed you that it was pretty quick after Robert's murder that she knew Jonathan Hearn had killed her husband.
Yes, she did.
When you were doing this interview, was she aware of her pending charges?
I do not recall if she knew exactly what she was booked into jail for.
And draw your attention to page 29, line 1.
She was asking me why she was being charged with murder.
Okay. Based on that, you replied, those are just charges, correct?
Yes.
Okay. As far as you knew when you were speaking here, was she aware that she was being charged with murder at the minimum?
Yes.
So when you were speaking with Ms. Limon during this interview and based upon what we've just listened to, she was in custody on murder charges?
Yes, she was.
Nothing further.
Terry, based on those questions, anything, sir? Yes. Go ahead.
at one point, you played a phone call for Sabrina, and she responded that Jonathan did it. You remember that?
Can you be more specific as to
Sure.
which phone call?
I'll direct your attention to page 15. Well, actually, I'll take it back. I'll change it to 16, line 11. Through 15.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry, your question.
Sure. Did you ask her following that call, which there's a line in that call where it says unintelligible, it had to be somebody wanted this done to Robert and unintelligible. That was something that was said during one of the intercepted calls between Sabrina and Jonathan Hearn, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you asked her, do you believe that somebody wanted this done to Robert? And you then said, you do? Who? And then she responded, Jonathan Hearn did. I just didn't want to,
Yeah.
She didn't want to believe it was Jonathan, right?
Objection, speculation.
Assistant.
She said that throughout the conversation that you had with her in Boron, that it couldn't be Jonathan. She didn't believe it was Jonathan. Did she not?
Something of that nature, yes.
And she's told multiple times throughout the interrogations by you or others that Jonathan did it. And they know Jonathan did it. And they had people who told them Jonathan did it. She's now buying into what she's been told. Would you agree?
Objection, mistakes the evidence.
You could rephrase that, Mr. Terry, please.
Sure.
Stay.
Let me put it this way. By then, she was willing to say whatever that you guys wanted her to say, right?
Objection, speculation.
Assistant.
Now, during the course of interrogation, or when you were speaking with her at the central receiving facility, you told her that you as the police were not interested in her and Robert's lifestyle. Is that right? Is that what you told her?
I believe that was brought up during the interview. It may have been Detective Trevino.
I believe you're correct. I believe it is Detective Trevino. And you guys said you couldn't care less, right?
To paraphrase, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, didn't Detective Trevino say exactly, I could care less?
If you can point me to the proper
Sure,
line.
page 7, line 18. For context, line 16 through 19.
Yes, he did say that.
Okay. But she was asked multiple times by the police whether or not she and Robert had an open marriage, right?
I don't know.
She was asked if she had had an affair or was involved in an affair multiple times, right?
Can you repeat that? I apologize.
Sure. Throughout the course of the investigation, she was asked numerous times by other officers or yourself whether or not she had been involved in an affair with Jonathan Hearn, right?
I can only speak to what I talked to her about, and we did discuss her having an affair with Mr. Hearn.
So with regards to what the lifestyle she and her husband were involved in, or whether or not she was having an extramarital affair with Jonathan Hearn, that you did, it was your business, right? Because that's what she didn't tell you guys about, right?
I was more concerned with the affair with Mr. Hearn. Again, there wasn't much relevance to me whether or not she had an open relationship with Robert.
But if she talks about her and her husband's lifestyle, it all comes out and becomes part of public knowledge, right? Like it is now.
Yes.
The fact she was having an affair with Jonathan Hearn, it's all now held out for public knowledge, and is that right?
It is now.
No further questions.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith?
People recall Detective Meyer.
Still under oath, detective, come on back up. Your witness, counselor.
Detective, earlier today, Victor Garcia, or Detective Garcia, testified about the download of Mr. Hearn's phone that occurred this year, 2017. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where did the passcode for Mr. Hearn's phone to be downloaded this year come from?
We received the passcode from Jonathan Hearn.
Could you recall when you received that passcode?
On January 3rd of this year.
Okay. Now, prior to January 3rd of this year, had you and the Kern County Sheriff made attempts to download that phone?
Yes, we did. On December 20th, I believe, of 2014, once the arrest was made, the cell phone was delivered to our technical investigations unit without the passcode, and a download was attempted, however, not very successful. iPhones are very difficult to get into unless you have the passcode.
What type of information were you able to observe once the download was complete on Mr. Hearn's phone in 2014?
There was approximately 2,500 pictures, which were thumbnails of album covers, different stuff that was taken from the internet.
Now, all the items that have been shown to Mr. Hearn from the download this time, was any of that available at the prior download that you were able to see?
No, on the prior download gave us very minimal information, just stuff as if you're surfing the internet and you would either take a thumbnail from the internet or a photo from an album cover or something like that.
Detective Garcia also testified about some emails that were on Jonathan Hearn's phone from the download of this year. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What emails was he talking about, that being Detective Garcia?
He was speaking about an email from the cell phone, jonathanhearn27@gmail.com, and there was approximately 14 emails that were sent from February 7th to February 28th, and those emails were being sent to Sabrina Limon20@gmail.com and her Sabrina Limon26@gmail.com. Now, those emails, some of them went from the John Hearn27@gmail.com just to the Sabrina Limon20@gmail.com, and then some of those also went to from Jonathan Hearn's email to the Sabrina Limon26@gmail.com, and then some went to both of her email addresses.
In your review of the Cellbrite download, was there any content of those emails available to review?
No, there was actually nothing in the subject line, and in the body of the email, there was nothing there, empty.
During some of the wiretaps we listened to, we heard Miss Limon mention a Four Corners location. Where is that?
Four Corners is located at Highway 58 and 395. Would be east Kern, basically, getting into San Bernardino County.
Your Honor, if I could approach, have an item marked.
Please.
95. If you could review that, please. You recognize the locations on Peoples 95?
Yes, sir.
They are satellite maps showing the area of Kramer Junction or 58 and 395, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would request Peoples 95 be moved into evidence at this time.
Any objection, Mr. Terry?
Submitted.
To be admitted. Excuse me.
Just going to start with page 1, if you can just describe the map.
Yes, this is showing Highway 58 heading eastbound from Tehachapi, also showing Mojave, North Edwards, and Boron, reaching 395, Kramer Junction, or commonly referred to as Four Corners, and then south on 395 up to towards Victorville.
Showing at the bottom of that map, that also includes Hesperia to the south of Victorville, correct?
Yes, and Hellendale's in there also.
Moving on to page 3. Page 2.
This is a zoomed in picture of pretty much the same aerial photo showing Boron, Kramer Junction, and then 395 there at 58 Four Corners.
And then page 3.
This is also the same aerial view zoomed in further, showing the Pilot Travel Center and the other gas stations located across the street. I'm not sure the exact name of that one.
The video that you provided to Ms. Limon via multimedia message on the 18th of November, where did that come from?
That video came from the Pilot Travel Plaza.
The location I've just circled on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hearn also testified about receiving gifts from Sabrina. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
During the course of your multiple searches at his residence in Hesperia, did you come across any items that appeared to be a gift or gifts from Ms. Limon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you bring those items with you today?
I did. It's located on the table over there by the bailiff.
Please. Yes.
You could open the back, please.
Okay.
You could remove the items. Your Honor, if I could approach, have that item marked.
and Mark Nick in order.
Showing you People's 97. Where did you locate this item?
I located this item on what would be considered the kitchen table inside Jonathan Hearn's apartment.
Did that occur in the searches that happened this year, 2017?
Yes, that was on January 5th of 2017.
I apologize, I forgot. What's the number of the exhibit?
I'm sorry, sir?
The number of the exhibit?
97.
Your Honor, I would request People's 97 be moved into evidence at this time.
Any objection, Mr. Chairman? Submitted.
During the course of your investigation, probably traveled quite a few times between Tehachapi and Hesperia.
Yes, sir, I did.
How long does that trip take?
It's roughly 2 hours from Tehachapi to Hesperia.
About how long does it take to travel from the Four Corners area to Hesperia, or where Mr. Hearn was living?
It's roughly about an hour drive, depending on traffic.
So the Four Corner or Kramer Junction location is about halfway.
Yes, sir.
Showing you now a disc that's been marked as People's 96 at the break that you reviewed this video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is it a video of?
This is a video that I recorded with a camera mounted to the hood of my patrol vehicle. It shows the eastbound 58 exiting at Tehachapi Boulevard and traveling westbound on Tehachapi Boulevard, northbound Denison, and then eastbound Goodbrick Road through the property located on Goodbrick, and then pretty much the video ends after that.
Your Honor, I would request People's 96 be moved into evidence at this time.
Any objection, Mr. Chairman? Submitted. Be admitted. Proceed, Mr. Smith.
Detective Meyer, what freeway did you just get off?
I exited Highway 58. I was heading westbound on 58 at Tehachapi Boulevard.
Driving westbound on 58, is that coming from the area of the Four Corners or Kramer Junction?
Yes, sir.
Which direction are you traveling now?
I'm traveling westbound on East Tehachapi Boulevard. I'm actually driving the speed limit. It just looks like I'm driving fast.
was testimony about video taken from Selecta. Where is that located at on East Tehachapi Boulevard?
It's going to be up here on the left side of the screen, be the south side of the road, maybe another half mile. When we get to the Selecta, I put a little title at the bottom of it showing the address. And that'd be on the left side of the screen there, south side of the road. That would be northbound on Denison Road. And eastbound on Gooderick Drive.
Now, as for the PATCO, did you also include the written name where you passed PATCO?
Yes, sir. I also listed the address for PATCO and when we pass it as we're driving through the video. That'd be Patco on the left side of the screen, which would have been the north side of the road.
Detective Meyer, how are you able to tell which one of the shops is the BNSF shop?
The only way I could tell was to look at the parking block in front. There's faded lettering. There's no sign showing which location it is.
Can you please state when we have passed the BNSF shop?
It's going to be the shop right here up on the right, where the silver vehicle is parked in front of.
Where are you proceeding to at this point?
I'm heading westbound on Goodrick Road, and I'm going to pull my vehicle into a rock area where the rock pile's at, which is where Mr. Hearn told us he parked his motorcycle.
Record plate 96 was played for the jury, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. All those locations we just viewed, the BNSF shop where Robert Limon was killed, was working, all in the city of Tehachapi?
Yes, sir.
All in Kern County?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Jerry?
Detective Meyer, the interview that was conducted by on November 20th, 2014 of Ms. Limon by Detective Rutledge, did you play that, portions of that, before you conducted your first interview with Jonathan Hearn on January 3rd, 2017?
No, I did not.
Didn't play any of her interrogation whatsoever?
I did not listen to that interview that she had with Detective Rutledge at the time.
Did you play any of her interrogations to Mr. Hearn at the beginning of your interview with him on January 3rd?
So the question is, did I play any of his interviews to
Her
Hearn?
interviews.
Okay.
Ms. Lamone's interviews to Mr. Hearn before you began interviewing him on January 3rd of this year.
So the question is, did I listen to them or did I play them to her?
Did you play them to Mr. Hearn?
No.
None.
I don't recall playing them to Mr. Hearn.
Now, with regards to the Gmail accounts that you located for Mr. Hearn and for Ms. Limon there. I think you said there was 2 for Ms. Limon, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said there was nothing on either her phone or his phone, is that right? That you observed as far as any emails, is that right? As far as content.
I did not locate any content from the download.
Did you ever obtain a search warrant to obtain any of these emails between Mr. Hearn and Ms. Limon that Mr. Hearn testified to from Google itself?
Another detective did obtain a search warrant searching for the content of those emails.
And did you obtain those?
I believe there was a return from Google. I don't know exactly what content was delivered from that return.
If any?
If any.
Now, the snow globe that you got there in front of you, People's Exhibit, was it 96? 97. You found that for the first time on January 5th of this year?
Yes, sir.
Was it there when you guys were there back in November 18th of 2014, if you know?
I'm not aware of that. I wasn't at that the residence that day.
Okay. Well, between January 18th of 2014 and, November 18th of 2014 to January 5th of 2017, had any of officers who were working with you or yourself gone back and searched Mr. Hearn's residence again?
We did search the residence on the 3rd of January 2017, searching for the arsenic.
That he described was in the garage?
Correct.
Okay. But when you were there in November of 2014 until January 3rd, no searches were done in that in-between time frame, is that right?
Not that I'm aware of. Not by any of our officers.
And so when you went back to this time in January 5th of 2017, now you decide that it's important enough to seize this particular item of evidence, is that right?
This was the first time that I had seen this evidence, sir.
Okay. Well, other officers, what I assume, have seen it when they were there in 2014, if it was there when they were there in 2014.
Objection, speculation.
Well, did you ever go to Mr. Hearn's residence to search it back in 2014?
I did not.
You just let other officers do it?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So whether or not that was there in November of 2014, you can't say?
I cannot say, sir.
And none of your other officers bothered to take it if it was there at the time, is that right?
They did not take it at that time, sir.
And you can't say whether or not it was even there in November of 2014, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Now, with regards to the video that was just shown, that I believe People's Exhibit 96 that you prepared.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With regards to that, could you see the buildings where at least the commercial buildings where the BNSF warehouse or shop was at from the freeway as you were driving in?
If you were traveling on the freeway eastbound on Highway 58, if you were looking specifically on the side of the freeway, you could possibly see the building there. Yes, the complex.
Eastbound or westbound?
If you're heading eastbound.
Okay. If you're heading eastbound, you could see it, but if you were headed westbound, you wouldn't see it.
You possibly could see it westbound also. I mean, there's multiple commercial structures on that street. So.
Well, Mr. Hearn said he could see it from the freeway, but you don't know whether or not, when you were doing your video, you don't know whether or not you could actually see those structures from the freeway.
I've driven by it many times, and I can see them from the freeway.
Yeah. From as you're going eastbound or when you're coming westbound, sir?
I believe you can see it both ways when you're heading east and west.
could you actually see the exit from those buildings? I know distances can be deceiving based on your video somewhat. From Denison down to where you exited the commercial buildings where the BNSF shop was to get onto Goodrick. Could you see somebody actually coming out of there from Denison?
It's a pretty far distance from Denison to the complex there. I mean, I guess if there was a vehicle leaving the area, you might possibly see it leave the shop. However, it's pretty far distance.
Fairly long distance, and being able to distinguish whether or not it's a BNSF truck or any other truck would be difficult from that distance, wouldn't it?
It would be pretty difficult to tell.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith?
Detective Meyer, there was some mention at the end of Sergeant Rutledge's interview about a Tiffany Gibbons and an Aaron Wilhoit. Who was he talking about?
Those were two subjects who lived in Hellendale, and Tiffany was the person who had spoken with Ms. Limon regarding possible arrests going to be made in the case and possible wiretap listening to the phone calls.
Okay. So the wiretap that we listened to November 7, 2014, where there is a mention of Aaron and Tiffany, that's who we're speaking about?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Terry, based on that question, anything, sir?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Still down.
Has to be subject to recall.
Granted. Mr. Smith?
Keep arrest. Subject to exhibits.
So we can take that up outside the prison. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, where we stand is, excuse me, Mr. Smith has put on his case. Mr. Terry will have the opportunity tomorrow to start his case. He'll put on his witnesses. When that's finished, we'll go back to Mr. Smith and see if he has any rebuttal. We'll do the same for Mr. Terry. Think of it as a big funnel. Eventually, everybody's called and there's nobody left to talk to, okay? So I told Mr. Terry to have his people ready to go tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So that'll do it for today. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. We'll see you all back tomorrow morning at 9. Have a good evening. Take care.